It's happening, the gloves are officially off. Blake Lively's legal team isn't just playing hardball anymore, they've crossed a line. And it's one that every content creator, independent journalist, and voice on the internet should be paying attention to. This isn't about fair use, this isn't about copyright, this isn't about gossip or opinion. This is about power and the weaponization of it to silence and intimidate creators who dare to talk about the people in power in an outrageous and deeply troubling twist to the ongoing legal war between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Lively's high-powered attorneys have now gone on record accusing multiple content creators, including me, of engaging in criminal activity. Not civil liability, not defamation, not misinterpretation. They are floating actual criminal accusations with absolutely no evidence, zero, none. Just vague insinuations, deeply misleading quotes, and veiled threats meant to chill speech and terrify the independent voices who've been following this case closely. The moment this news broke, that her legal filings included references to unlawful conduct, potential fraud, and criminal conspiracy to interfere with justice, every red flag went up. They are trying to recast commentary, analysis, and reporting as part of some grand illegal scheme. And that should terrify everyone who values free expression online. So in today's exclusive breakdown, we are going deep. I'll take you through what exactly Blake Lively's legal team is alleging, the explosive filings that mention creators by name, yes, including mine, the absence of actual evidence, the tactics being used behind the scenes, and why this might backfire spectacularly both legally and in the court of public opinion. We're also going to hear from some of the other creators who've been targeted, many of whom are now retaining legal counsel, and explore the chilling implications this could have for the future of media and content creation. Because make no mistake, this isn't just about one actress trying to salvage her image. This is about whether powerful figures can leverage the legal system to criminalize speech they don't like, and if they succeed, you could be next. Let's rewind just a bit. The legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has been making headlines for months, a bitter public multi-pronged fight that started with a defamation claim and has since exploded into something far bigger. Lively, who once held a pristine public image as Hollywood's golden girl, has come under fire for her alleged behind-the-scenes manipulation of media narratives, questionable NDA letters, and contradictory statements made under oath and in the press. But what's happened over the past 2 weeks has taken things into dangerous new territory. In a shocking series of filings submitted to the court late last week, Lively's legal team, led by her now notorious attorney Lisa Graham, claimed that content creators, commentators, and even legal analysts were participating in what they described as a coordinated digital smear campaign meant to undermine the integrity of judicial proceedings. What does that mean exactly? According to the filing, these creators, none of whom are employees of Baldoni's legal team, by the way, are being accused of using selectively edited clips, potentially confidential information, and anonymous sources to improperly influence public opinion and prejudice the judicial process. But it doesn't stop there. The language escalates dangerously into criminal insinuations. The filing goes on to say that certain statements and behaviors may rise to the level of criminal obstruction depending on the extent to which these individuals have conspired with parties involved in active litigation. That's right, obstruction, conspiracy, criminal misconduct. And then in a footnote, the kicker: we reserve the right to pursue referrals to appropriate federal or state agencies should additional evidence come to light. Let that sink in. They are threatening to refer creators, YouTubers, TikTokers, podcasters to the authorities for doing their jobs, for speaking, for analyzing, for criticizing, and there's no hard evidence. No emails, no smoking gun. Just the existence of commentary that they claim is suspiciously aligned with Baldoni's legal narrative. Now here's the real kicker: many of the statements these creators made were based entirely on public court filings, not leaks, not stolen emails, not hidden sources, but publicly available documents obtained legally and discussed openly. That's what makes this so dangerous. Because if a public figure can declare that reading a court filing and talking about it online somehow constitutes criminal interference, where does it end? Imagine if every journalist, commentator, or analyst who questions a legal narrative gets painted as part of a criminal conspiracy. That's not just reckless, it's authoritarian. Now, I want to be crystal clear: these filings do not include formal criminal charges. This is not an indictment. This is a threat, not a prosecution. But the legal maneuver itself is chilling, because the goal is clear: intimidation. Blake Lively's team wants to stop the bleeding. The public backlash is real. And instead of answering the hard questions like why she contradicted herself in sworn statements, why certain texts from Taylor Swift were redacted, or why whistleblowers are suddenly vanishing, They're turning the focus on creators like me. Why? Because we're not part of the mainstream media machine, because we don't have PR handlers, because we can't be bribed with access, and because when we get subpoenaed like several of us now have been, we fight back with the truth. And trust me, the subpoenas are coming fast. As of this week, we've confirmed at least 6 creators have received legal notices from Lively's legal team demanding communications, content, archives, and source information. The language is aggressive, the deadlines are brutal, and the implications are crystal clear. Stay quiet or else. But here's what they didn't expect: we're not going quietly. In fact, the attempt to criminalize commentary has created the exact opposite effect, a digital groundswell of support for creators who are being targeted. Lawyers are now stepping up pro bono, civil liberties organizations are watching closely, and fans are furious. Let's talk about the backlash. Within hours of the filing being posted online, the internet erupted. #ProtectCreators and #LivelySilencevis both trended on Twitter X. Creators across platforms, even those who hadn't covered the case, began issuing statements of solidarity. Legal experts issued rapid-fire threads breaking down why these tactics could backfire legally. One particularly damning quote from a First Amendment lawyer summed it up best: "If Blake Lively's team actually pursues criminal referrals based on public commentary about court filings, they may find themselves the subject of countersuits for malicious prosecution or abuse of process." So not only is this strategy ethically questionable, it could be legally dangerous for Blake and her lawyers. Now let's get into some of the specific creators being targeted without revealing private legal details. Here's what we know. So far, Andy Signore of Popcorn Planet has confirmed he was mentioned by name in an internal communication submitted with the filing. He is now retaining legal counsel. Candace Owens, though not named directly in the public document, has been connected via a subpoena request aimed at identifying any coordinated digital activity tied to ideological actors. A popular legal analyst on TikTok whose videos explaining deposition law went viral last month received a cease and desist letter warning that further commentary may constitute willful defamation. And then there's me. My name isn't in the filing yet, but sources close to the case confirmed I'm one of several under active review. Let me be blunt, that's not going to stop me. What's happening here is bigger than one creator, it's bigger than Blake Lively. This is about whether people with money and fame can use the courts as a cudgel to silence dissent. And while her lawyers may have thought they were issuing a warning, what they've actually done is rally a resistance. Because if speaking truth to power is now considered criminal, then I guess I'm guilty as charged. Let's take a closer look at the timeline and strategy that led to this explosive development. Because this level of aggression from Blake Lively's legal team didn't come out of nowhere. It was calculated, it was deliberate, and most of all, it was reactive. This all began spiraling after Blake Lively suffered a wave of public embarrassment. During the discovery phase of her ongoing legal war with Justin Baldoni, her team had attempted to redact key evidence, particularly texts involving Taylor Swift, and faced immediate pushback from both Baldoni's lawyers and the judge overseeing the case. Public interest spiked, videos analyzing her strategy inconsistencies in her legal filings and odd gaps in timelines started getting millions of views. And let's be honest, the commentary wasn't flattering. In fact, for the first time, Lively's once pristine public image was showing serious cracks. What made it worse for her team was that creators were winning the narrative, not cable news, not Variety, not The Hollywood Reporter, but independent creators, the ones actually reading the documents and breaking them down in real time. This decentralized scrutiny became an embarrassment, and Lively's team, they hate losing control. So the strategy shifted. Instead of addressing the substance of the criticism, they attacked the source of the criticism, the creators themselves. And this wasn't a coincidence. Sources close to the legal battle say Blake's PR team was furious that certain creators were able to acquire public documents faster than mainstream journalists. One insider even alleged that Blake felt blindsided by how fast some of her own statements buried in appendix filings were turned into viral exposes online. But here's the catch: that's not illegal. Accessing public records is protected. Talking about public figures is protected. Criticizing celebrity behavior, also protected. So instead, they went with a smear tactic. If they couldn't win with facts, they'd win with fear. Enter the vague criminal allegations. By inserting these phrases, potential conspiracy, criminal obstruction, referrals to authorities, they're not filing charges, they're not proving anything. What they are doing is planting a narrative that these creators must be part of something shady. It's character assassination dressed in legal language. And it's straight out of the Hollywood crisis management playbook. See, in celebrity legal battles, there's an unspoken rule: control the perception and you control the outcome. But the internet broke that rule. The internet democratized attention. It gave power to creators who don't answer to studios or publicists. And Blake Lively's team underestimated that power. Now let's zoom out to how the legal community is reacting. I've spoken to multiple legal analysts, civil rights attorneys, and First Amendment experts over the past few days, and the message is clear: these tactics are deeply problematic. One well-respected attorney who regularly defends creators in media litigation said this: "This is a classic slap-adjacent maneuver. While not technically a SLAPP suit, it's a weaponization of legal intimidation to suppress constitutionally protected commentary. It's deeply concerning." SLAPP stands for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. And while what Lively's team is doing may not meet the legal threshold in every state, it echoes the same tone: bully your critics with the threat of legal consequences even if you have no case. And guess what? That's what makes this so dangerous. Because a threat doesn't need to be real to cause damage, it just has to be scary enough. Creators are now reeling. One TikTok analyst who previously made our long breakdowns of the court transcripts has since privated their entire archive. Another creator disabled comments and began removing videos after getting their subpoena. Even veteran podcasters are saying they're now carefully watching every word, not because they lied, but because they're being watched. This isn't justice, it's intimidation. And here's something even more alarming: Lively's team included a veiled reference to creators under the influence of undisclosed financial incentives, which has now prompted speculation that they're preparing to falsely accuse certain YouTubers of being paid operatives of Justin Baldoni or his lawyers without any proof. The irony: there's far more evidence of traditional media outlets being influenced by publicists than there is of creators being secretly paid. But Lively's team knows that. This isn't about facts, this is about poisoning the well. Now, let's talk about my case. Am I scared? Sure, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. Getting word that your name is being flagged for potential criminal coordination in a high-profile celebrity lawsuit is no small thing. I've received multiple messages from concerned subscribers, colleagues, and yes, even a few anonymous threats. But here's why I won't stop: because the truth matters. Because commentary is not a crime. And because if we let celebrities redefine criticism as conspiracy, we've already lost. Everything I've said, everything I've analyzed came from public information, and that's important. I didn't break into Blake Lively's email. I didn't hack a database. I didn't steal a phone. I read the filings. I looked at her own statements. I watched her contradictions pile up in real time, and I asked questions. That's not criminal, that's journalism. Now let's look at how the public is reacting. Social media has exploded. Comments across platforms are overwhelmingly against Blake Lively. One viral post summed it up perfectly: Blake Lively could have just apologized and moved on. Instead, she's trying to silence the internet. Big mistake. Petitions have started to circulate demanding accountability from both Lively's legal team and the judge overseeing the case. Some are even calling on other celebrities, including Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds, to publicly distance themselves from what's being described as abuse of power. And some of the backlash is coming from inside Hollywood. Anonymous entertainment insiders have begun leaking messages to journalists, suggesting that even some of Blake's former allies are uneasy about her tactics. One particularly explosive leak revealed that a former co-star privately described the subpoenaing of creators as pure desperation. Here's the bigger picture: this could backfire on Blake Lively in ways she never imagined, because even if these tactics succeed in scaring some creators into silence, the blowback is massive. She's alienating her own fan base, she's making herself look like a bully, and worst of all, she's drawing more attention to the very narrative she's trying to bury. I mean, just think about it. When was the last time someone tried to shut down conversation and it worked? People don't like censorship, they don't like intimidation, and they really don't like it when celebrities with millions of dollars try to silence the little guy. So what happens now? Here's what I've learned. Several of the creators targeted are now organizing. Some are joining together to seek legal counsel as a group. Others are planning public responses, legal defenses, and content campaigns to raise awareness about what's happening. There's even talk of filing anti-slap motions if any lawsuits are filed, which, if successful, could allow creators to not only beat the claim, but collect damages from Blake Lively's team for harassment. The legal community is watching, the public is watching, and this story is far from over. But if Blake Lively thought she could silence the people speaking out, she just made them louder. Let's talk about what this means for the future of content creation and what kind of precedent Blake Lively's team is trying to set. Because this goes far beyond one lawsuit or even one celebrity. If this tactic works, if the public allows this type of legal intimidation to become normalized, then every creator who covers celebrity news, true crime, legal cases, or even politics will be at risk of facing vague, baseless accusations whenever someone doesn't like what they're saying. Blake's team is testing the waters. That's what this is. They're probing the limits of how much influence they still have, how much control they can regain over the narrative that's spiraled completely out of their hands. And it's not just about Blake's reputation anymore, it's about the precedent this could set for every other celebrity, public figure, or corporation that wants to crush independent media voices. If one of the most powerful actresses in Hollywood can casually toss around criminal accusations without evidence and scare everyday creators into silence, who's next? Think about it. If you post a video reacting to a leaked deposition clip, are you now part of a criminal conspiracy? If you analyze court filings that are publicly available online, are you undermining a judicial proceeding? If you call out inconsistencies in someone's sworn testimony, are you guilty of malicious interference? This is the terrifying logic her lawyers are floating, and if they're not challenged, others will copy it. Because remember, Blake Lively's legal team isn't operating in a vacuum. These tactics are being watched by other high-profile lawyers, PR strategists, and crisis managers across the industry. If her team succeeds in silencing dissent through intimidation, it sets a dangerous blueprint for everyone else in power. And yet, for all their aggression, all their threats, and all their veiled language, there's one thing Blake's team can't do: stop the truth from getting out. Because here's the twist: every filing they submit, every document they redact, every subpoena they issue only draws more attention to the controversy. Their desperate attempt to plug the leak has only opened the floodgates. This is the Streisand effect on steroids. We've seen it before. When powerful people try to erase something from public discourse, it explodes even bigger than before, and that's exactly what's happening now. In the last week alone, content about Blake Lively's legal strategy has reached over 40 million views across YouTube, TikTok, X, and Instagram Reels. Dozens of creators, including those not previously involved in the case, are now making content specifically defending creators' rights. Legal YouTubers and journalists are openly discussing potential ethics complaints against Blake's legal team. Major civil liberties organizations, including the Electronic Frontier Foundation (EFF) and Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, are being looped in by concerned attorneys and creators. This is spiraling, and not in the way Blake's team intended. And the best part, it's not coming from a billion-dollar media company. It's coming from us, from the people with webcams, microphones, and phones, from independent voices who are done being intimidated. Now let's take a moment to talk about the creators Blake's team didn't expect to push back. You might think the only people weighing in are the usual suspects, YouTubers like myself, legal commentators, and podcasters. But the resistance is way bigger than that now. Even influencers outside the legal or celebrity niche are getting involved. Beauty bloggers, comedians, parenting vloggers, book reviewers, creators from all walks of life are using their platforms to call out what's happening. Because even if they've never covered a court case before, they understand the stakes. One parenting creator with over 3 million followers posted a now viral video saying, if Blake Lively can try to silence creators for talking about public court documents, then what's to stop any company from coming after me for talking about my experience with a bad product? This affects all of us. That's exactly right. This is not a celebrity drama. This is not gossip. This is a freedom of speech issue. And creators are realizing fast that if they don't push back now, they may not have a chance to later. So now the question becomes, what can we do? Here's what's happening behind the scenes. 1. Legal defense fund. There's a growing movement among creators to establish a joint legal defense fund to support any YouTuber, TikToker, or podcaster who faces legal intimidation from Blake's team. Lawyers are volunteering their services. Donations are already coming in. 2. Public transparency campaign. Multiple creators are coordinating a campaign where they will post the subpoenas, letters, and threats they've received redacted for privacy to expose the intimidation tactics being used. The goal: full transparency and accountability. 3. Freedom of Press Alliance talks are underway to form a new creator-led alliance, one that works across platforms and topics to protect creators from slap-style lawsuits and legal abuse. The idea is to create a support system that gives people the tools and knowledge to fight back. 4. Counterclaims. Yes, you read that right. At least 2 creators are seriously exploring filing counterclaims against Blake Lively's legal team, including potential claims of tortious interference, abuse of process, and malicious intent to harm a business. Because what Lively's team may not realize is this: you don't get to just accuse people of crimes. and walk away, there are consequences. If you file legal threats with no evidence, if you publicly insinuate criminal conduct without proof, you're not just being unethical, you may be opening yourself up to liability. And the creators aren't alone, the public is watching and supporting. Every day I get messages from viewers saying, "Don't stop, we've got your back, we believe you. Thank you for standing up." And that's the part Blake's lawyers can't control. They can try to redact documents, they can send subpoenas, they can issue veiled threats in fancy legal language, but they can't make the public unsee what's already been seen. They can't silence millions of people who now know the truth. The game has changed. Hollywood PR teams used to rule the media narrative. Now creators do, and no amount of legal strong-arming will put that genie back in the bottle. So here we are at a crossroads, not just for this case, but for every independent voice daring to speak out in a world increasingly dominated by image control, corporate narratives, and celebrity influence. Blake Lively's legal team didn't just issue subpoenas, they didn't just throw around vague threats. They issued a challenge to the very fabric of free commentary, and now we have to decide how we respond. This isn't about whether you like Blake Lively. This isn't about whether you believe Justin Baldoni's case has merit. It's not even about who's right or wrong in the original lawsuit. No, this is about what happens when power is unchecked. When access to million-dollar attorneys gives someone the ability to frame criticism as criminality. When commentary becomes conspiracy, when reading court documents becomes evidence of obstruction. If we allow that precedent to go unchallenged, we lose more than just this battle. We lose the war for truth, because today it's Blake Lively, tomorrow it's a tech company, then it's a politician, then it's a billionaire, then it's someone with a brand to protect, a narrative to control, or a lawsuit they want buried. And slowly the walls close in around everyone who's ever dared to say, "I think the public deserves to know." That's why this matters. The internet was supposed to level the playing field. It gave rise to voices that traditional gatekeepers had long ignored. It gave us power not because we were famous or rich or connected, but because we had truth, perspective, and a way to speak freely. That's why so many of us became creators in the first place. Not to join the Hollywood machine, but to challenge it. And now that machine is striking back, not with public debate, not with a rebuttal, but with legal force. They're hoping we back down. They're hoping we don't have the time, the money, or the courage to fight. They're hoping we stay scared. But here's the thing, when creators are backed into a corner, we don't fold, we create louder. We respond with more clarity, more unity, more information, and more resilience than they ever expect. Blake Lively's lawyers underestimated something crucial: the intelligence of the audience, the strength of independent media, and the fact that this generation of creators isn't just here to entertain. We're here to inform, to challenge, to expose, and to defend the very freedom that allows everyone, famous or not, to be held accountable. So where do we go from here? We keep going, we report, we analyze, we create, we band together, not just in resistance but in solidarity. We support the creators being targeted, we question the motives behind legal intimidation, and we remind people that influence isn't the same as immunity. No matter how glamorous your red carpet resume may be, the more they try to bury this story, the bigger it becomes. The more they threaten to silence, the more voices rise up. And the more they lean on fear, the more people begin to ask, what are they so desperate to hide? Let me be clear, this isn't the end, this is the beginning of a bigger movement, because now it's not just about Blake Lively, it's about creators across every niche, on every platform, realizing that their rights can be challenged and deciding to fight back anyway. And this time the whole world is watching. So to Blake Lively's legal team, I say this: if you wanted to intimidate creators, you've failed. If you wanted to silence criticism, you've amplified it. And if you wanted to rewrite the rules of public discourse to suit your client's image, you've just exposed how fragile that image really is, because when the truth is strong, it doesn't need to be protected with subpoenas and veiled threats. Only lies need that kind of armor. To every creator out there watching this unfold, hear me: you are not alone, you are not powerless, and you are not a criminal for telling the truth. We will not be silenced, we will not be intimidated, and we will not stop telling this story, not until every tactic is exposed, not until every abuse of power is held accountable, and not until every voice that was threatened for speaking the truth is restored louder, prouder, and more unstoppable than ever before. This is not just content, this is a cause, and we're not backing down.